Yes, Sirski! What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing, man? Welcome. Happy Friday, y'all. Yeah. What's up, man? How's everybody doing, man? Welcome. Thank you guys for joining me, as always, man. And welcome to another episode of the Jayson Estrera Show, where we talk about basketball, sports, and any topic that comes our way as accurate as possible. Yes, Sirski Elijah, what's good, man? What's good? Now, today, we are going to be talking a little bit about, thank God it's Friday. Yeah, I hear you, dog. It's been the longest fucking week. But we're going to be talking a little bit about the Super Bowl. Obviously, the big news, Kendrick Lamar will be performing at the Super Bowl. Lil Wayne has finally responded, so we'll be talking about that. And Rick Ross had some words for Drake in an interview. In other news, when it comes to basketball, we will also be talking about the Dwayne Wade statue, the Julius Randle situation with the New York Knicks, and if Trae Young were 6'8", would he be the actual GOAT? So, before we get into some of those topics, we are going to start with my guy, Manny Pacquiao. Now, man, I gotta say, seeing some photos and videos recently of my guy, Manny the Pac-Man Pacquiao, and I'm like, dog, he getting older. But you know, he was doing some content with Speed. I gotta show love to the hometown, to the motherland. Yeah, get his ass. And he obviously dropped Speed. Now, you know, some people will say he trying too hard to connect with a younger audience. If anyone has ever watched Pacquiao, he always been like a goofy, joking kind of person. Don't let the congressman role and all that other stuff fool you. Family man, all that stuff. He's still a funny guy. There was a time here where Speed barked and the motherfucker jumped. Like, yeah, this shit is comedy. I'm glad to see Pacquiao, man. Every time he pop up, it's always good. So that's dope, man. That's dope. One of the unlikely duos, you know, like I didn't think we would be seeing that. But hey, for the amount of shit that Speed gets, right? You can say whatever you want about his content, his character, his attitude, whatever the fuck you want to say. He is living out all of our dreams. He's met his heroes. He's met all these greats in all these different fields. Kevin Durant, Manny Pacquiao, Ronaldo, obviously. I mean, in that respect, that's got to be the coolest fucking thing. He traveling the world. It just is cool. It was cool to see. Man. It was definitely really cool to see. Now, to some a little bit more, I guess, somber news. Straight from Lil Wayne's account on Instagram, he had this to say with regards to Kendrick Lamar being chosen for the Super Bowl.
Forgive me for the delay. Just the delay. I want to say I had to get strength. I had to get strength enough to do this without breaking. I must say thank you. I must say thank you to every voice, every opinion, all the care, all the love, and the support out there. Is your words turned into arms and it held me up when I tried to.
Yo, all our legends is getting older, dog.
That hurt a lot. You know what I'm talking about? It hurt a whole lot. I blame myself for not being mentally prepared for a letdown. And for just automatically mentally putting myself in that position like somebody told me that was my position. So I blame myself for that.
That's real. That's real as fuck.
thought that was nothing. I thought that was nothing better than that spot and that stage and that platform in my city. And so it hurt. It hurt a whole lot. But y'all.
So he's obviously, he kept saying how hurt he is about the situation. That was real, though. That was such an honest moment of transparency and vulnerability. Just talking about he expected to get it right, and it's his own fault not understanding the landscape of what's going on in the world and just in music in general, right? It is actually very profound. And I think everyone is a philosopher and develop their own philosophies. Facts. I think the way he was able to articulate himself in that moment really shows why he's such a great lyricist, right? And to the folks out there that's talking about, I ain't heard a good Lil Wayne song or a hit or whatever the fuck you want to say in years, you just don't listen to him, and that's totally fine. But that's different from him not having some fire. Some of his features, quiet as kept, right? Everybody was talking about a couple years ago, J. Cole been bodying every features. Quiet as kept, bro. Ever since Wayne started showing up on all them Khaled songs, all of his features have been fire. It just is what it is, right? Just because folks don't listen to it, don't mean it's not good. If we try not to place ourselves in the future, we can avoid a lot of unnecessary pain. There are necessary pains, but sometimes we can do what Wayne did. That's facts. And I think it's also, to his point, I don't think he was wrong in expecting it, right? His mistake was not expecting the other side, right? You have to be able to read a situation and assess all the different scenarios and outcomes so that, to your point, Elijah, you can mentally and emotionally prepare yourself for it, regardless of which way it goes. But I will say with regards to this, right? I understand that Kendrick has had a year. That win over Drake was massive. I'm not mad at him parading his music or he's capitalizing on the spotlight that's been shined on him because of the beef. So, also because of Drake, right? And he's capitalizing on it as he should. So it's not his fault, right? But for the people who are making these decisions to fault Lil Wayne for his relationship with Drake, because that's what it seems like, right? Kendrick, they could have somehow made this thing happen with Kendrick still, I think, personally, right? Almost like as a passing of the torch, right? Because Lil Wayne's a lot older. And here comes this younger guy that's got a grip on the game right now. I think that could have made sense, right? But it just feels like Lil Wayne is getting penalized because of his relationship with Drake and because of what happened just a couple months ago. And that's the unfortunate part in all of this, right? That's the part that really sucks. I grew up on Wayne. I'm Jay-Z till like that's my guy in terms of hip hop, and there was a time where I really considered whether or not Wayne was better than him. That was a real thing. I know he said it, but that was a real thing. To me, it's a little strange that he gets it after having a public issue with a black man. Kendrick has been mainstream, so I find it strange he's qualified now. This isn't a knock on Kenny. Yeah, it's not it's not a knock on Kendrick, right? It's like I was talking about with contracts, right? If this gets presented in front of you on the run that he's been on, why would you say no? Right? Like, that's the part. I can't fault him for saying no. So it's not more so his problem. That's like, Rudy Gobert getting the fucking defensive player of the year. It's not his fault they gave him the award. Right? It's the voters or the powers that be. But now that opens up the door for these conversations and these discussions, and that's just a part of it. And like I said, I think Kendrick has handled all of this with a lot of grace. He's handled everything as a professional. Like I said, he's pulled all the right switches and levers to his advantage. Right? He won the battle and he's winning the war. Is kind of what it is, right? Still winning in the aftermath. So it sucks. Hopefully they do something with Wayne in New Orleans. That's at the very least, especially with the outcry and all of the backlash. I really hope that they figure a way to get Lil Wayne on that stage. Now, to the other side of this beef, right? Because, and I'll be honest, I think it's just, the timing is just funny. Right, that the Super Bowl stuff comes out, and then Rick Ross has this interview where he talks a little bit about the Drake beef.
I believe you're gonna win much bigger.
So I want to go into you and Drake.
Right.
Are you and Drake really beefing, or that was more like a business type of situation?
No, I'm not gonna say it's business. He mentioned my name. You know what I mean?
Because from what we know, is like, what we feel like we know is he said something about French Montana, and you defended French Montana, like you said something to Drake when you wasn't mentioned, but you saying Drake said your name first.
Yeah, like I said, he mentioned my name, and that's a no-no.
That's a no-no.
Don't do that, especially when it ain't about no real shit. But when you do that, okay, then this how we gonna play. That's cool. Mm-hmm. I enjoy that. I can wake up every day and say BBL Drizzy or some more shit while I'm smoking a joint, listening to the waterfalls and all that shit, looking at the birds fly off. You know what I'm saying? That shit easy for me. But
so that was
is everybody built for this? Mm-hmm. Is everybody built for this?
So it's a real thing.
It most definitely could be a real thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
So that's Rick Ross's take on the beef between him and Drake. He's basically saying there isn't a real beef. It was the fact that Drake had mentioned him. The funny thing for me is, and what he said, which I get what he's saying, right? But there's a guy from Queens, New York, named Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, that shits on you every chance he gets. And you don't be saying his name on wax. So, like, why Drake? And listen, bro. Listen. He's been trolling him. I think it's funny. I personally think it's funny that he just throwing shots at him. All these people that Drake had hit songs with have turned around and started dissing him. I think it's comedy. But, Rick Ross, I watched some of this interview. He's just comedy. Like, he genuinely is just, the shit that he be saying is just funny, dog. But like I said, they just won't let this beef die. It'll die down at some point, but today is not that day. So, hey, man, Drake gotta wear that, bro. He gotta wear that. He gotta ride this shit out. He gotta ride it out, bro. He gotta ride it out. Now, to go from that to another Miami Heat legend, another Miami legend. Exactly, people get on tough guy shit with people who aren't tough guys. Like, Hey man, if you know anything about the rumors of, who Rick Ross really is, and Drake has alluded to it, other people have alluded to it, 50 Cent just says it. It's just interesting. All of it is just very interesting. But like I said, going to another Miami legend, from Rick Ross to Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade is going to get a statue. So the Miami Heat had tweeted, "Our franchise GOAT getting basketball's ultimate honor. Be here when the Dwayne Wade statue is officially unveiled," which is happening on October 27. And then the statue night is going to be against the Pistons on October 28. His jersey was retired February 2020. He was the face of the Miami Heat for forever. So he's getting his just due. He was obviously getting a whole lot of praise also during the Olympics. I thought he did a really good job. I'll be honest with you. I really think that he did a really good job over there. But this really, to me, just it's a signal to the falling out that happened between Dwayne Wade and the Miami Heat. They for sure went in that game. They set it up on purpose, dog. But if you guys remember, they had a little bit of a falling out. Dwayne Wade did with the Miami Heat organization. Went to Cleveland, Chicago, and that's why all of those things kind of happened. So hopefully this is a great sign that they're kind of patching things, because the reality is their championship and winning pedigree is really it's really just one of those things that it really started with him, if we're being honest, right? Obviously, Shaq was in there, and he brought his experience and pedigree, but it was really Dwayne Wade. And through those down years, he had some phenomenal years, right? Through some of those down seasons as a team, he had some really great years. I hope Cade bust their ass. It would take so much offense to that. And hey, he might, man. He might. Good for him. I hope he do. Or at least have a good ass game. Make it a good game. Have to force those guys to really go and win it, right? But yeah, a lot of this Heat culture, I really think has been kind of built on Dwayne Wade, who is just a rock for that organization, right? In terms of never got into any real trouble, always just a kind of quiet guy, just head down, work, grind, get better. If anyone remembers Dwayne Wade, he could only drive right and go all the way to the cup, and if he drove left, he was going to step back. And then he added the pump fake, he added the turnaround, floaters. He was just an example of someone that was really cognizant of growing his game, right? And it's like I said, it's really cool to see that he's finally getting his statue. Now, because of this, right? Because of this, it obviously brings up now this conversation of where does Wade rank amongst two guards? And a part of this conversation is because some of the comments that, even Jeff Teague has made, that James Harden is better than Dwayne Wade. And even before that, the reason Wade is in this conversation is when Kenny Smith had said a long time ago that he can't think of 4 guards that are better than Dwayne Wade, right? So he was literally left at Michael, Kobe, and then Dwayne Wade. So where does Wade rank, right? And I'll be honest, I didn't like, right behind Kobe and MJ, I'm gonna get some hate for this for sure, bro. But on hearing initially what Jeff Teague said, right? That Dwayne Wade to him was just better than that Harden was better than Wade because of just the style, the game plan, everything. Right? Period. As much as I may make fun or disagree with him, right behind those two, right? When I actually think about James Harden, like when you really think about that stretch James Harden had and how good he's been, realistically, right? Him and Dwayne Wade is a legitimate conversation, in my opinion. Now, the problem with that is when he moved from Oklahoma City to the Rockets, he became a point guard. And that's the part that no one ever talks about, right? What do you consider him as? Is he a shooting guard or is he a point guard? Because in this conversation, obviously, it matters, right? Because James Harden would knock somebody off of the list. And depending on where you put him, the conversations are different, right? So that's number one, right? Personally, I think because of the position that they actually put him in and where his numbers excelled, he had the ball in his hands the whole game. He brought it up. He ran the entire offense. And, you know, to the conversation yesterday about 20 assists being dominant or not, right? That's what makes Harden, Luka, LeBron, Russell Westbrook, Jokic. That's what makes these guys so spectacular. The ability to go out and get that many assists and also put up 20, 30, 40 points. It's unbelievable, right? So, you know, I just want to give James Harden credit that he's doing that sense, right? But, like I said, if you consider him a point guard, and I genuinely do, I think that makes ranking Wade a little bit easier. I think there are performers and winners, and Harden's a great performer and hooper. But from what I see, has transitioned to be a winner. I think this is a normal process for players to go from. Yeah, because, you know, somebody could argue, and no disrespect to Dwayne Wade, right? The years where he was putting up 30 a game and it was his team, he wasn't getting those guys to, you know, the second round of the playoffs. They weren't even making it some of those years. And Harden was leading the Rockets to 50-win seasons. I get that he didn't get a champion. I get all that. I get all that, right? But you ultimately need other stars and other guys around you. That's just the reality of it, right? Now, if, let's say, okay, now if someone were to consider James Harden a shooting guard, right? Now we're looking at something a little bit different in my opinion, right? Because when you compare the two of them, I understand the impact that Harden has, the pressure he applies on the defense. But Dwayne Wade was also a really great defender. And I think, you know, he got the nickname The Flash for a reason. Right? I get that, you know, by the time Bron came around, he had already kind of lost some of that athleticism. But Dwayne Wade earlier on in his career was unreal on offense and defense. It's what made his mid-range work so well, because his slashing ability and attacking ability was just so incredible. I wasn't going to say Harden hasn't been a winner. I don't believe winner blows up teams and pushes people aside and does the things Harden does. I mean, that's one way to look at it. But I mean, 50 wins is 50 wins, and if we really look at that Rockets team, them Rockets team was not that good. It was literally all Harden. Now, I think that was more of a style thing, right? The style of basketball that they played, I don't think was to win a championship. That's just me, right? But I think he did what he had to do in that situation. But yeah, I think Wade edges James Harden out in the 2-guard ranking, and it really is because of the defense. It really is. I think at one point Wade was a 30-point per game scorer for a season with no 3-point shot. Think about that. With no 3-pointer, he was a 30-point per game scorer. Great defender, one of the best rebounding 2 guards, one of the best shot blocking 2 guards, steals. Just a great all-around player. I think the run he went on was great, and it wins to a certain amount, but it was obvious you can win all the way with it. Yeah, he was just like, you could just imagine the way Harden played. Like he had to have been exhausted at the end of these games. And when you start playing against better teams, you just can't get away with that same shit. But like I said, I think Dwayne Wade edges James Harden just barely. Right, and for me, I don't even account the championships and the trophies and the awards. I'm just like looking at their raw game. I think Dwayne Wade edges him out just slightly, just slightly. And for me too, a part of it is the performance that Dwayne Wade had in the 2006. It was 2006, right? In the 2006 NBA Finals. That was some of the greatest shit we've ever seen. Just that 2 weeks of basketball that Dwayne Wade played was out of this fucking world. So kudos to him, man. Kudos to the both of them, really. Kudos to the both of them. Like I said, we try to give everybody their flowers, right? We try to give everybody their flowers. But now, going from couple stars in Miami to a star in New York, what's going to happen with Julius Randle? Now, there's been a lot of talks. I've been seeing a whole bunch of fucking trade rumors. If you guys remember, there was the incident about his jerseys not being sold at the MSG store. Come to find out, it could have just been misleading photos and whatnot. It's been a lot. And I feel for Julius Randle, right? Because the reality is this, and if you've ever been in this situation with your friends, with a group, if you've met whatever it is, right? If you're with a partner and, you guys are at yours or their work event, or, you're with your partner or you're with your friends, whatever the case is, this feeling of being the third wheel, being sort of the outcast in the group. Because the group that you're around has so much history, so much time. It just, their bond is different, right? And when you're the person on the outside, it's very easy to shut yourself down, right? The issue is that guy is, on a given night, your second or your first best player on the floor. 24-9. And I hear the people that talk about New York Knickerbockers 2025 NBA champs, dog. I would crash the fuck out. I would crash the fuck out, bro. I'm not even lying. I might streak down the block. No bullshit. You know, there's a lot of critique on Julius Randle's game, and I hear it. Right, a ball stopper. He's a one-on-one guy. He's really developed into a lot of these middies when he's such a physical, imposing player. But the issue with maybe getting rid of him or trading him is, what the fuck do you get back in return? If you're not getting another perennial all-star, then what? Because I love my Knicks. I love them. But the reality of their situation would be this. If you get rid of Julius Randle and get a bunch of pieces and not an actual star, then you are now left with one superstar star borderline player in Jalen Brunson with a bunch of supporting guys. That's what that reality looks like. And you and I both know, when it comes to making runs in the NBA to be a championship team, that shit don't work. I've spoken at length about the fact that when you're a small point guard, when you're a point guard that's 6'4" and under, and you're the best player on the team, your chances of winning an NBA championship drops significantly. Well, they've had what? I think like at this point, 10 out of the 76 NBA Finals MVPs. If Julius Randle did what y'all wanted, he'd be a superstar. If everyone is super, that means nobody is. That's why Steph has value. We also expect perfection. That's why Russ, Bron, Trae Young, etc. People have to accept players. Facts. That's facts. Right? I think sometimes we think that the game is a video game and that these guys could just switch up 20 plus years of muscle memory and way of thinking and seeing this game to do something different. That's why players like Chris Bosh get so much praise from LeBron and Wade, because the guy shifted his whole game. It takes a lot to do that. I know a lot of us made fun of him. A lot of us gave him a lot of shit. That takes a lot. And I think Randle is in this weird spot because he's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of skill and value. But the way he gets his numbers, just call it what it is not conducive to the team that they have right now. But the problem is, if you're the Knicks, you can't throw away 24-10 either. That's why this is such an issue. You see what I'm saying? How are they going to manage it? The Knickerbockers had a month stretch after OG arrived where they were arguably the best team in the league. Randle is a huge part of it. Facts. It's about continuing that, right? Can they let Jalen Brunson go? Can they let him just go and do his shit? And can Julius Randle be efficient in his spots? That's what it really has to come down to, right? Randle has to be extremely efficient. And I think that's the key, his efficiency. Because Yeah, we could talk about trading him all day long, right? But like I said, what do you get in return? If you don't have him, now you're expecting OG Anunoby to be an all-star, superstar type of player, which he's never been. Mikal Bridges to do the same thing. Josh Hart is fucking 6'3". Like, I get the critiques, but they're going to have to just figure it out, right? Somebody's going to have to make a sacrifice, and it's probably going to have to be Julius Randle. But to act as if he is not, he can't be a key part of this is, I think, just stupid. I'll be honest with you. I think it's just stupid. Now, this brings me to this topic, right? Because in this modern NBA, everyone talks about positionless basketball. But I'm here to tell you why positions are important in the NBA. Because nowadays we have shooting guards are point guards. Point guards are shooting guards. Shooting guards are small forwards. Small forwards are power forwards. And power forwards are centers. And there are no centers, damn near. Everyone just all mumbo jumboed. You know, a lot of the media over the years, right? I think they are to blame for some of the ways that the fans watch the game, right? And what I mean by that is this. Throughout the 80s and the 90s, they made us believe that a point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and the center can only look a certain way. Right? A power forward is only a brute guy that plays defense, crashes boards, and sets picks. Not forgetting that there's always been different types of power forwards that were good at different things. Depending on the player that you have, that's how you put the pieces together on your team. Look at the Boston Celtics. They all had distinct positions and roles on the team. Somebody's going to have to sacrifice somewhere. Everyone can't be the ball handler on the team. Everyone can't shoot. Everyone can't get the assist. Everyone can't get the rebounds. I think that's what's sort of missing in the NBA right now. You have everyone that's good at a lot of things, but people aren't mastering some of these key parts of the game anymore like they were. So like rebounding, shot blocking, defense, steals. Because everybody is so locked in on this positionless basketball bullshit that they've fed us for the last decade to try to actually, and they've actually gotten people to believe that it's a real thing. It's not a real thing. Just because LeBron James can play small forward, which if you look at LeBron James, what does he do well at the small forward? He slashes, he cuts, but he's not going to come off pin downs and down screens and get mid-range shots like a shooting guard would. He could also play point guard because he handles the ball. He runs the pick and rolls. But this notion that, I know that they have him playing power forward. I think it's stupid. He's not going to be down there setting picks. This idea that some of the basic things that the game needs isn't necessary anymore, and I think it's really a coaching problem, is a part of why some of these games look sloppy. And we've talked about it before, how the skill has evolved so much. But I think that those skills have now allowed players to bail themselves out of stupidity, right? They don't have to think the game through as much because they can get away with a hezzy pull, with a bop 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 step back. And I think coaching staffs and teams have put less of an emphasis on these positions and these roles. But when you look at the best teams in the league, they all have well-defined positions and roles. Just is what it is. But, so speaking of a team that has all of that stuff pretty much figured out, this is what Jayson Tatum had to say about his prediction on the 2025 NBA Finals.
Jayson Tatum, yes. Why not? Predict which two teams will be in the NBA Finals next summer.
Ooh, the Boston Celtics.
Say it!
It's gonna be a rematch. We're gonna play Dallas again.
Whoa! Whoa!
So, some interesting, a very interesting take there from Tatum. Usually you don't want to give your opponents that much credit, right? They did just come off. I mean, he was just traveling with Luka and the Jordan guys, right? So maybe that's why it was fresh on his mind. But what are the chances that this actually happens, right? Obviously, the Celtics they have kept their team. Al Horford retired, right? Oh, he's not. Is this guy not retiring? Oh, he's not. Oh, he's not retiring yet. Okay. Because, Al Horford played a massive part in their championship run. Now, can this Luka Doncic, Jayson Tatum rivalry actually take shape and take life? Because two Jordan Brand guys, two massively successful players. On one hand, you have in Jayson Tatum, probably the most team success since he's entered the NBA. And oh my gosh, I need to clip that. And on the other hand, you have Luka, who's probably been individually the most impressive player that we've seen in recent memory since he's come into the league. I saw the rumor the other day. I wasn't sure if that motherfucker was retiring or not, because listen, bro. Every season, that's facts. Without Al Horford, they would have had a long fucking day. I'm not gonna lie to you. Obviously, they were really, really good, but Al Horford was massive for them. Just keep it a buck. He was massive for them. So losing him would actually be huge. But I'm curious if this is one of those things where they're trying to push this kind of rivalry, or if there really is something there. Does Dallas really look that good, especially with the addition of Klay Thompson? Are teams really talking and thinking about the Dallas Mavericks in this way behind closed doors, right? everyone has talked about how easy it's going to look for Klay having Luka and Kyrie. But do the teams really think that way? Are they game planning and coming up with problems when forecasting what this matchup looks like? I don't know. Right? So, obviously, I can't wait till the season starts and when these two teams match up. But has the addition of Klay Thompson really added a level of fear with this Dallas Mavericks team? Because, up until now, especially Boston, they had success double teaming Luka and double teaming Kyrie at times and also playing straight up. They got other good additions too. Who does? But yeah, man, I'm excited for this shit. I'm excited to see this matchup. I'm excited to see these guys go at it. Obviously, the storylines of Tatum being snubbed off of the Finals MVP, the Olympic stuff. Is he gonna go for an MVP this year? Luka, is he gonna come back and try to get an MVP that some people thought he deserved? There's a lot of storylines between just these two teams alone. Yeah, I mean they look very promising, man. And like I said, just between these two teams alone, they produce a lot of storylines in the NBA for us to watch. So I'm really fucking excited for that. Now, we're going to talk about this very interesting take that Trae Young had on $1 million worth of game.
On TV, but when you see it play, you're like, I thought he's a killer like that. So what percentage is heart and what percentage is skill to be dominant in the NBA?
What's your definition of heart? Because a lot of people.
AI.
Yeah.
He's little, but he got heart.
Yeah.
Heart of a lion. He going at anybody.
Yeah.
It's that killer instinct that you have. I don't care how big you are, who you is, because then you will see somebody that's
Rick Brunson.
Yeah.
you see somebody
Trae
big.
Young.
You
Ja Morant. You want me to
see
tell
what
you
I'm
what? Damian Lillard.
That's what heart is.
No.
So because you'll see a player big, but and I'm not saying it the wrong way. You will see
Oh yeah,
him
that's
like,
facts. That's facts.
He's just big for nothing.
No, for
he's scared.
sure.
He's soft for the drugstore cotton.
Hey, I used to have this saying. I used to hate when I used to see guys that's tall and that's all. You know what I'm saying?
Tall and that's all. That's what I'm saying.
They just out there. They tall and that's all, and they can.
Unfortunately, that's a little man syndrome talking.
If I was,
I'm gonna get into that.
Like I feel like I would be the best player to ever play this game, just because of my mentality and the way I play, just the smartness I have on this game. Like I feel like there's a lot I can bring, but there's a lot of deficiencies because like I'm 6'2", 6'1". Like it's tough. And I'm playing in a big man's game. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. I don't know. Like the percentages for me, I think it varies because you said it's heart and skill.
What's
Like for me, like it's a lot of it's skill. A lot of it's skill, but a lot of it's heart. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of guys, it's different. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same bar for every.
So, would a 6'8" Trae Young be the GOAT? So let's tackle this first part. This conversation of the heart of a lion, the Warriors' heart, because of all these smaller players, right? All of those terms or whatever labels, right? Characteristics, some people might call them. All of those things are just substitutes for, to your point, little man syndrome. That's why they have that heart. It's because they're small. Obviously, there's other guys that have that quote unquote killer mentality and that are tough as nails. But the reality is these guys develop that mentality, which is what Trae Young is talking about, because they've been small their entire life. Their entire life they've been getting doubted and overlooked and bullied and shoved and pushed. It developed that way of thinking. Now, if Trae Young were 6'8", how does he develop that same mindset? That same little man complex? If when he goes in most settings growing up, he's the biggest motherfucker there. right? The mentality shifts, right? That's a massive what if. Oh, he's gonna be a dog. How? How? We know part of the reason why Trae Young is the way that he is because he's small. And the other part that a lot of people forget when they have this conversation is, how the fuck would he develop his game in the way that he did if he were 6'8"? We developed the games that we have growing up because of our size, our speed, our strength, our jumping ability, our first step. All of these things factor into why we develop the games that we do. You know how stupid I felt when I had a whole mid-range three dribble game, got into high school and motherfuckers were 6'7"? I was like, fuck. I was like, yo, this shit not gonna work. So you have to figure something else out. Oh, it's 6'8". If he has the vert, he's not gonna have the speed necessarily. Or if he has the speed, we've talked about it. The handle isn't necessary. If he could dunk and lay everything, why would he need a jump shot? See, people just want to say, oh, you could take Allen Iverson, make him 6'6", and he keeps all of the same attributes. Motherfucker, that's not real. People have talked about Jalen Brunson. If he were 6'7", he wouldn't have the game that he has. There are very few players, in my opinion, where if you took them and what they do and their attributes, their skills and characteristics, and if you, in a basketball sense, and if you made them taller, they would be about the same or better. And the reality is what? Those guys have to be less skilled. My prime example is a Josh Hart, a guy that don't rely on his skill, jump shooter. He don't rely on any of that shit. If Josh Hart were 6'6", 6'7", he would be a fucking monster. I mean, he already is. But the motor, the being in shape, having intuition, all of those things translates for Josh Hart because he don't have he don't need all of that shit. And let's call it what it is. Trae Young is fucking nice. And I think in a weird way, he's realizing the fact that I've already been trying to express to people, which is the fact that point guards and little guards leading teams to a championship, your percentage is like, it's like fucking 10%, dog. It don't happen. You can look throughout all of history. It does not happen. The only in the last, since the 80s, the only exception is literally Steph Curry, and you could argue Chauncey Billups. Because I'll be honest with you, even when Tony Parker won those finals MVPs, I don't think he was the best player on that team. Little guards just do not lead teams to championships, and it just is what it is. And I think that's a part of where this mentality is coming from, the frustration, because this part of the game it's been a part of the game for forever, and it's not gonna change. Height plays a valuable role in this game of basketball. Your athleticism, all of those things play valuable roles. And so, would a 6'8" Trae Young be the GOAT? Fuck no. Fuck no. Fuck no. We see a bunch of 6'8" guys that can handle the ball, hit step backs and all that shit. They're not the best players in the league. As a bunch of guys that are really good. Don't get me wrong. They're not the best players in the league. They're not as good as Trae Young neither. So, I think Trae Young, he just needs to figure out their little team system. I think he needs to grow his game off the ball a little bit more so he can get easier shots. And just rock out, man. And just rock the fuck out. But to go from one what if to another, DeMar DeRozan had some very interesting things to say about the Toronto Raptors. You're a Toronto Raptors, Elijah. So let's take a look at this.
But the conference is better, and last year they were in the play-in. Did you consider?
Oh, he's talking about the thing right here.
A challenge every single night and before felt the way. No.
They damn well need to believe in you. I mean, please change himself. They just gave him a gift. To ask you this, because I've been always tempted, and I want to reveal this to Molly. I've said this in front of Molly before, not in front of Doggy. I want to know how you feel about this. One of the most painful moments in your career, I believe, I don't know, I never asked you this, was when you departed from Toronto because Masai brought in Kawhi Leonard. And I know they won the championship that year, but I've often said this. The kryptonite for the Toronto Raptors franchise at that particular moment in time was LeBron James, because y'all kept running into LeBron James. The year he arrived, LeBron James went to L.A. Right. So my attitude is, had DeMar DeRozan stayed there, he'd have been a champion with the Toronto Raptors. How do you feel about that once you hear something like that?
Yeah, and never, to discredit those guys. I mean, they won it, they deserved it.
Right.
I finally had got to a point to where, I was happy for them. But for sure, I definitely feel like that. The only person we couldn't beat was LeBron. That's just what it was. And I felt off the year we had before, we just needed one more piece to kind of push us over the top. And that piece came to be LeBron going to the West. And I didn't get an opportunity to see what would have happened. But the utmost confidence within myself, I have no doubt in my mind the same outcome would have happened.
So, you obviously love the confidence out of DeMar, right? He's always played like a very confident player, and obviously he's a really good player, right? And so to hear this discussion, right? Now, obviously, their kryptonite was LeBron, and he's spoken at length about this. He said this many, many times, right? LeBron was his and their kryptonite. Could they have won a championship and made a run? Obviously, it's possible. I think the part that makes this interesting is that DeMar and Kawhi's game is kind of similar. The midi, methodical. I'm going to play at my pace. I'm going to look for my shots in an isolation situation and get buckets. I think the major difference is obviously Kawhi, I think, is a little bit better of a three-point shooter than DeMar DeRozan. But to say that they would have won, because let's be honest, right? Kawhi needed a couple bounces to get for that shot to go in. And the Kevin Durant injury, the Klay Thompson injury, because if you've watched any multiverse kind of movie or show, right? If you change one thing like DeMar not being traded, right? That's a domino effect. Now imagine he stays there and maybe, LeBron's on the West and they don't have to deal with him, but what if Kevin Durant were healthy and Klay were healthy, or even just one of them were healthy? Would they have beat the Philadelphia 76ers straight up? And not needing a crazy bounce for a game winner. Like I said, I love the confidence, But the reality also is we've seen DeMar in those instances and in those situations, and unfortunately he's never gotten there. And I think for me that's the hard part to envision. Was he good enough? Absolutely. I definitely do think his talent, his skill, that he was a good enough player. But a lot of things would have still had to fall his way and their way just to go and be in that same position, right? Because a lot of things had to fall in Kawhi's way, right? It didn't get handed to them either. So that's tough because, like I said, the Raptors' path to that was, you got some lucky bounces on that shot and some injuries. And like I've said before, if Kawhi doesn't have that other championship, they would be talking about him totally differently. Totally differently. But that's with one of the teams that DeMar has been on. Now to go to another one.
He let you hoop, he let you play.
We talk about DeMar on the Chicago Bulls.
San Antonio put me in a place to where, like, I it was like a university that I graduated in 3 years when I was in San Antonio, because Pop challenged me in a whole different level.
Where is this?
One Anisovic with the joint.
He knows. Oh, my bad. Ace. So, all those guys that I played with, man, it was a special time. I gained a different type of bond with most of those guys.
So, that leads us to this topic of teams that could have been, right? I really like that makeup of that Chicago Bulls team because they filled in gaps that the other players didn't have, right? Lonzo Ball was a ball handler, a pass first kind of player, and was really starting to knock down threes and jumpers. DeMar is a really great isolation midi player, very unselfish also. I don't think he gets enough credit for being an unselfish player. Obviously not a great 3-point shooter, but then you look at his other wingmate in Zach LaVine, great 3-point shooter, slasher. I really thought they had a mix, right? And so to see it fall apart due to injury just kind of reminds me of, the Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie, Harden, and KD. Obviously the Clippers, we just saw them get disbanded. Paul George, Russ, and Harden. All of these different makeups. And it just reminds me that names on a piece of paper don't necessarily equal wins, right? So much has to go into it. They got to like each other. They got to respect each other. Their games have to match. Their games have to mesh. Their personality. There are so many things down the line that have to fit. And it takes work. Someone's going to have to sacrifice, right? And to see those situations and then see a situation like in Boston where they worked out, right? Seeing how other teams have been able to make it work. It's crazy, man. The NBA truly is crazy in that sense, and that's what makes it so exciting, because just because a bunch of great players are on one team doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win. And I think for me that's what makes the NBA so exciting. Because teams that lean on execution, like I said, they have roles, they have positions, they have a hierarchy set in place. Obviously, they're going to need stars as well, too. Those teams end up being at the top of the mountain. And that's just how it's always been. Now, the last topic that we're going to talk about is whether or not A'ja Wilson and her historic season is getting overshadowed by Caitlin Clark. Now, to some, the clear answer might be a hell yeah, she's getting overshadowed, right? But you could have the best game of your life today. If nobody's watching it, then nobody was watching it. Doesn't mean you're not great or any less great. But in sports and in what they're doing, obviously, you need the eyes, right? A'ja Wilson could have had this season. And if Caitlin Clark was not here, I think it would be a little bit different. Now, I also think that a part of the reason why these players have turned up is the mentality that, oh, if she's bringing eyes in a spotlight, then let me turn the fuck up. Similar to when you're playing against a highly recruited player in high school and they bring the scouts out. You could either sit there and pout about it and compare yourselves or bitch about it and moan and whine. Or you could say, they're watching, let me go perform and ball out. Because their eyes are, they're going to be watching the same game. I'm going to be here. And it seems to me that that's the way that A'ja Wilson has decided to tackle this situation. And I think that the WNBA is better off for it. Because granted, the Caitlin Clark fans are crazy. And it's a rabid fan base. They're like the Beehive or like Nicki Minaj's fans or the Swifties. It's her or nothing. But again, it still shines a light on all of these other players, which I think ultimately does do them justice. And you can say all you want, but you can't take that fact away, right? This has been one of the greatest, if not the greatest, WNBA seasons. And it's also been one of the most, if not the most viewed. And I don't think that's an accident. So to say that A'ja Wilson is being overshadowed by Caitlin Clark, I think actually Caitlin Clark has helped shine a light on A'ja Wilson. Because regardless of what you think about Caitlin Clark, whether you think she's great or whatnot, you could be delusional and think she's the best. That don't mean that she is. A'ja Wilson is still the best. And all that this has done is, like I said, shine a light on her. And I think ultimately that is great for the game. But as always, you guys have been great to me. Elijah, I fucking appreciate you hanging out today, as always, man. Thank y'all for coming and hanging out and watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit, because we are trying to take this to Mars. I promise you we will. The season's right around the corner. We're coming in hot. We're going to get it, man. As always, thank you guys for coming here. You guys could have been anywhere on the internet, but y'all were here with me, and I really appreciate that. So I will see y'all later, man. Peace, 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 peace. Have a great, great weekend. UFC this weekend. I'll see y'all Monday, man. Peace. Have a great rest of your weekend. Later, later, later.